I kind of want to shift gears to some policies, and the first one that is up for discussion with this election with Amy Coney Barrett and the Supreme Court is the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah. Something
that Congressman Doyle has supported. So what is your stance on that?
Yeah, so the ACA, actually something that not everyone knows is Representative Doyle was really one of the deciding votes in what I would call shoving this down the throat of the American people. So if we look at national polls at the time that the ACA was passed, the ACA was not wanted by the majority of Americans, and yet Congress forced it to happen. They kind of forced the hand of the American people. So here's what I tell people. I believe that the right gets some talking points wrong when they talk about centralized healthcare or Obamacare, and I believe that the left gets a lot wrong. So on the right, what we see is people saying, look, our healthcare is fine, just leave it alone, it's good. I don't think it's fine. I think American healthcare is broken. But then on the left, they say, so we've got this problem that the government created, which is high prices and inaccessible healthcare. And they say, so if the government created this problem, now let's give all the power to the government and they'll fix it all. And I say, wait, the government created this problem through what we have now. This is why I say healthcare is broken. What we have right now is crony capitalism. It's not free market capitalism. It's not true capitalism. Specifically in American healthcare, what we have is crony capitalism. What is that? It's basically free markets mixed with some socialism, or free markets being mixed with government intervention. We see that the government is the number one, by far, the number one buyer and consumer of American healthcare. What does that mean? It means the government is able to pay, let's just say, for example, say $5 for a medical treatment, for a pill. And then when you come along, though, you're not the government. You can't buy in bulk. You can't leverage your power like the government can. So what do you pay for that same treatment or that same pill? You pay $10, $15, $30. So the government is really the ones driving up our prices. And this is really like an abusive relationship. It's like an abusive husband coming to his wife and saying, hey, I know our relationship isn't great, but if you now give me all the power, then I'll fix everything. The American people are the person being abused, and the government is the abusive husband saying, I know I screwed this up, but just give me all the power through Obamacare, through the ACA, and then I'll fix everything. And it's like, no, you don't. That's not how this works. We need more free markets, not less.
Okay, well, it is interesting that you do bring that up, Luke, because actually, according to the American Journal of Medicine, in 2009, the medical costs were the reason for 62% of bankruptcies in the United States, and also people who have pre-existing conditions, need to rely now on the Affordable Care Act because they were never able to get insurance before. So what would you say to people who rely on the Affordable Care Act for their health care, who maybe cannot afford it, and especially the people who have pre-existing conditions?
Yeah, so right now there's actually only about between 8 and 12 million people, Americans, who rely on the ACA. The rest are on, they like to group in several, tens of millions above that. Those are people on Medicare and Medicaid, not the ACA. So that's a number that you didn't cite, but that I've heard cited a lot. It's often misunderstood. There's actually very, very few who are specifically on the ACA. And then when we get to pre-existing conditions, the ACA does not cover all pre-existing conditions. I actually just talked to a mother who has a daughter with a pre-existing condition, and she pulled me aside specifically because she knows about my viewpoints and how I talk about the ACA, and she said, I want to make it clear to you, the ACA says that they care about pre-existing conditions. We have it. They don't cover my daughter. And here's how it works. If you don't identify a pre-existing condition in the first 6 weeks, you're not covered under the ACA. So she said, this is the pot that we fell into, and now we're screwed. We have nothing. So they love to tout this as a talking point on the left, and it's not entirely honest. It's not entirely true. And then on top of that, I'd say, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising to me that a lot of people struggle paying these medical bills, because really what happens is you're taxed twice. You're taxed once for a system like the ACA, and then the second tax is a hidden tax, what we were talking about, where the government gets that discounted rate. They get to pay $5 for a treatment, but you, the private consumer, your medical bills are much higher than that because you're making up for the difference for that government discounted price. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of people are having trouble paying bills. I just think we need to be specific with who's to blame here, and it's the government primarily.
Okay, yeah. So so something you did mention was maybe having private insurance on the free market. Would that be something that you would support?
Yeah, I would. And more than that, I'm a big fan of price transparency when it comes to private insurance and medical treatment. So seeing, let's say, for you, an X-ray costs $1. And for me, I come in and I say, okay, this hospital is offering a $1 x-ray, and then this hospital, for the same exact x-ray, wants to charge me $100. This is actually essentially happening behind the scenes right now. We see this happening with health insurers because your average America doesn't have the time or knowledge to go around comparing prices for x-rays and for treatments. So we need price transparency. That's another thing that I think could be brought into the free market, but it's not the government being the primary driver of the free market. And the free market, I believe, drives excellence, it drives accessibility, and it's going to drive better treatment.
Okay, yes, and also